This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's pod. This is the week in review of April 30th, 2022. It's a good show, Phil. I just realized your video is off. I just fixed it. There you go. You're welcome.
Hey, you can see me.
Yes. So right off the bat, some like normal news is popping up, right, as we're moving slowly into the post-COVID world, whether we care or not that it's over or not, but it is over. News about the new not-so-scary Halloween party is out, and you wanted to ask a question, Phil.
Yes. So my cold open question is, now that Disney has announced this year they're returning back to the pre-COVID structure for the Halloween party, so it's back to Mickey's Not-So-Scary Halloween Party, which means you can get in at 4 and Magic Kingdom closes at 7. So if you are a regular guest, and that means those nights, the 37 nights they have it, they will not be showing Enchantment. Park will close early and that sort of thing. And we don't know the crowd levels, but certainly it's going to be more than what was at Boo Bash and stuff like that, where they were really marketing it that it was super low crowds. How do you feel about that? Like, do you prefer like what they tried with Boo Bash and the Disney Merriest holiday party, or are you happy that the old style parties are back?
As someone who would never have paid for it anyway, I hate it. I only won't pay for it because Family 5, it gets expensive, right? And I don't think I'm ever down there to do it. But then again, I'm thinking about wanting to do it maybe for the Christmas, because you were talking about your December weekend getaway type of thing. Yep. And I'm like, oh, maybe I could pull it off for that. But again, go back to your question. I like the idea where you're not impacting regular ticketed guests. I'd be so angry if I had a ticket and I found out it was closing at 7. Hopefully I won't be the person that doesn't realize that there's a Boot Bash party. But I think the last year's it was great because you could go in slightly early from the party, see 2 fireworks shows. You're paying a pretty penny for it, and you get a lot of great entertainment. The park was not at capacity anywhere near it.
Nope.
I thought it was a great structure. Now I think maybe they're doing this because of moneyed reasons. I don't know, because they're going to have more people and the tickets are more expensive type of thing. But the entertainment lineup looks a lot better, right? They've got the parades, they've got shows, they've got characters, they've got a whole bunch of stuff. And again, it's basically, I think, our guess of like, this is what would have happened last year if COVID never have happened, right? So in the text in the Disney Parks blog, they're saying for the 50th anniversary, this is what we're doing. We're adding even more stuff. And I think you're going to start slowly seeing that over the course of the next 8 months. That this is the 50th celebration type of stuff. What do you think, Phil? Are you on Team Jason on this one?
Yeah. So of the two, I really like the after hours low crowds scenario. Now, I did hear a lot of complaints, especially from locals who would go to like multiple parties and stuff like that, that they felt they weren't getting the value out of it because the like short lines for the rides didn't really matter to them. And I know a lot of other people just like go to the Christmas party was just a tradition for everybody. And it was really for the Halloween stuff or the Christmas stuff. And at the prices they were charging, and for the Christmas party, it got up to like $250 a person,
Sure.
A lot of families couldn't do it. And also people are saying it was very late. So if you had young kids, it was hard. So my hope, or what my like sort of best case scenario, was that they would offer both. And on some days it would be like the early party, and some days it would be an after hours. But I think they went back to, like you said, get a lot more people in the park, not quite as much money per person, but if they have 3 times as many people and it's still 60% of the price, they're going to be doing a lot more total dollars. And that was one thing, the price did jump a lot. I had tweeted out that versus the 2019 prices, the cheapest price went up by 38% and the most expensive went up by 47%.
That's a bit of a hike.
That's a bit of a hike,
That's
especially when
inflation
people were really complaining about how crowded the parties were getting to begin with. So it'll be interesting to see crowd levels this year. Like, are they capping it? Is this price point going to keep some people away? Because
that's a question. A lot of
people would go, and then they said, I spent 2 hours of the party and standing in line to meet one character or something like that. And it's really tough to justify the cost.
Yeah, I think they might be experimenting with the whole, if we make it expensive enough, will it naturally exclude people because of the cost? And then if you're paying for it, now you're getting more exclusivity and lower crowds. But are they doing it that way? Or I would imagine people are going to pile in anyway. And
I think demand's really high. I know a lot of people that really were, just love going to the party and were not happy it wasn't around last year. So I'm sure they're lining up to buy these tickets.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind it that way if the tickets were cheaper, right? Like you buy your normal base ticket, and then maybe like for maybe a little bit more than like a hopper add-on cost, you get into the party itself. Like I'll pay, $150, $180 for a park ticket if I get into the park and the party itself, versus if the regular ticket was like $120. So it's like a $60 adder or something else like that. Yeah, I would certainly do that, but they'll never do that.
Doubling.
Yeah, exactly.
More than doubling, right? So
it's not worth it. All right, so welcome to some new Discord members into the community. We always welcome new people, new faces, bringing their opinions. We got Recurve, Liver Lips McGraw, and Magic Mini. I'm surprised Magic Mini has not been taken yet as a name, but welcome. Please follow the rules. It's a nice community. No swearing or anything else. So come and have some fun, and we look forward to your input. The DCI is up to 85.2. It's at big, I think, what is that? Almost a single percent uptick, or is it like 60% uptick from last week just because of the Halloween party? I think I think
it was that, and then also Connections Cafe opening, kind of replacing Electric Umbrella, but those two things together moved it up more than a point. So
okay.
But yeah, there was a big penalty for the Boo Bash. I mean, which well deserved. There was a lot less offered at it versus the Halloween party. So yep.
I'm always curious about how Matt scores these things.
Yeah,
it's always interesting.
We always get into some fun debates about that. Right?
Oh, absolutely. All right, so if you've been listening in the last couple of weeks, we've had these topics that we're like, oh, next week we're going to talk about that, and next week we don't talk about that. So we've got an attraction alley that we're going to get to. But first, we want to do a topic of what everybody's talking about first, which is obviously Phil and I's vacations that we're taking. I mean, I'm talking about it, Phil.
Yeah.
So that means everybody has to listen to it. But this is originally was going to be like a planning podcast, right? That's our main influence of what we enjoy doing. And if everybody recall, I'll talk about me first, and we'll go to you, Phil, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because part of this was we had a topic about Genie Plus and some of the kerfuffles in Disneyland and Walt Disney World and small verbiage, and one of my things is leading right into that. So we'll go from there. That being said, last week I was going to go down to a quick trip with my my mother. We were going to do like a mother-son kind of like trip, and then my wife, like if you measure on a spectrum of I could take or leave it going to Disney World, and then like I want to go 100 times a year type of thing. My wife's like right in the middle of that spectrum, right? And it's been inching more and more every single year. So we celebrated our 10-year anniversary last year, and we just celebrated our 11th. And once COVID allowed us to travel out of the country, we were going to kind of do like a second honeymoon, right? Go to a beach somewhere, have a 5-day all-inclusive resort type of vacation. And my wife's always wanted this. She's always been looking forward to it. And just within like the last 6 months, she's like, I don't want to go on that trip. It's boring. I want to be doing stuff. Oh. I'm like, okay. I'm not turning down like a, husband and wife, like adult only, like Disney World trip. This is great. But she's like, I feel like I will get bored. I want to go on rides and go to restaurants and do different things. I'm like, let's go. So, my mother was perfectly okay with letting her son and her daughter-in-law go on their trip. So we planned the trip as both of us, and now we're going at the July 14th. We just picked a random date in the middle of the summer to go, and they had some really decent rates with the Disney Plus subscription. By the way, if you're looking for a travel agent, our very good friend Matt Pato of DCI is also a travel agent. So if you want to hit him out on Twitter to help plan your next vacation, shout out to him. He really, he helped out. He did it for us, and we kind of love working with him on that. That being said, we booked Thursday through Monday, like I said last week. I was originally just going to do an all-star because they were like $160 a night, nice and cheap and easy because we're just going to be doing stuff. But my wife's like, nope, I'm not staying there. If we're going to stay somewhere, I'm going to stay somewhere like a little bit nicer, but with the Skyliner. So, of course, we're doing CBR, Caribbean Beach Resort, like we were supposed to be doing in February. And the rates are actually really good. It's like we got it like in the 200s, I think. Like it was like 260, I want to say.
Yeah, I think that's what you said to me. Yeah, it was like 267 or something. Yeah.
It was great. So it was like 25% off with the Disney Plus subscription. And I got to tell you, Phil, booking 4-day tickets, 4 nights, 5 days is cheap when you don't have to drag your kids along with you.
It's only times 2.
Oh my
times
goodness. It's like, I think without airfare, I think, obviously it's just the package, right? Room and tickets. I say only, but it's not only, but like $2,600. That gives me 4 ticket hopper packages. I've never thought I would get hoppers on purpose. And we got that. And we book Genie Plus for every single day just because why not? I'm only paying for 2 people. So here's the thing. The calculus has now changed with just paying 2 people. So I'm now in Matt Pato's camp of saying like just spend money to have a better time because it's not times 5, it's times 2 with the costs, right? So I'm like diving into all the Genie Plus strategies. Nothing's really changed from what I guessed it was when I first looked into it. But the one thing I've never thought about, Phil, maybe we could talk about how you thought about this, potentially with hoppers. Are you planning hoppers in December?
Usually, no.
You usually don't get them.
We normally don't get them just because of that. We don't get the value out of them, and when you have to times it by 5, it's just not worth it.
Give you an idea, it added an additional $100 on our trip to add them on for whatever reason. So I was like, all right, toss them on, let's go. But now it's all about stacking, but in another park.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I knew that was a thing, but I never gave it any second thought because it's like I'm never going to be hopping. I refuse to hop with small kids, like dragging them around, getting them on a bus, and all that other nonsense. That's too much of a waste. But if it's my wife and I, all right, we're done with the park today. Let's go over to Epcot and grab a beer and a bite to eat. Why not start stacking for Epcot type of thing? So I got to think about that. I have no game plan, and this is kind of an exciting new world that I mean, normally I wouldn't do it because of the money. Now it's just like it's an extra cost. So. What do you think about my I want you to critique our initial game plan because we got the park reservations done already. So we're going to do Animal Kingdom the day of. We arrive at 8 a.m. That's wheels down, 8 a.m. in MCO. I don't know how we're getting to the resort yet, whether we're using the town car service that you've recommended in the past or Uber or whatever. I try to get my wife, all right, just pack everything in a backpack, throw it in a locker, and we're going right to the park. She's like, I am not putting everything in a backpack at all. We're taking luggage. I'm like, okay. So we're doing Animal Kingdom. So we're not going to be able to get any rope drop stuff, but I'm going to get Wi-Fi on the park or use your amazing service of friendship. See if you could book
see what I can get for you.
See if you could book something like at prior to park open. And but I'm going to try to book like an individual lightning lane for Animal Kingdom, do that up, and then head over to Epcot. Hopefully the restrictions that are rumored for hoppers kind of goes away by midsummer. So we'll see. I think there's a solid 20-30% chance that happens within before Memorial Day, where they take away those restrictions. So Animal Kingdom into Epcot, into Hollywood Studio. Oh no, Epcot the second day, full day Epcot. Hollywood Studios last day where they were doing Magic Kingdom, which would be on a Sunday. So what do you think about that? I don't know where we're hopping to at each point. Yeah. We have to figure that out, but I don't know. So those are my full days. I've never played hoppers. So where would you change that?
So overall, I mean, I think the plan sounds good. Sundays are usually good for Magic Kingdom and have Animal Kingdom as your arrival day one because you don't know how long it'll take you to get there, but you kind of do what you can at Animal Kingdom and maybe you hop, maybe you don't. Planning hoppers is definitely different, and especially now with being able to stack Genie Plus, and if you were going to pay the individual lightning lanes, you can do that at the 2 parks and stuff like that. So it's there's if you're really going to get into it with the hopping, there's a lot you can try to take advantage of and get a lot in each day.
I mean, I'm surprised you didn't comment that I'm going to Epcot twice in 2 days. Like you were
right.
like you didn't give me an attaboy or.
I figured that was just minimum, right? They'll be hopping that. So I did actually think about that. If you were going to hop even that first day, you could look for an individual. Assuming we still actually don't know. I can't believe we don't know that yet. I'm assuming it's going to be individual lightning lanes for Cosmic Rewind. So you could even get both of those in. that first day.
I don't know. I mean, check it out. I'm going to keep my eyes open. I gotta strategize this. I've never had it like dive deep. Like it's usually been one park. This is what we're going to do at the park. Now all these possibilities are like I have to change. Like, can I be satisfied with like a half a day at Animal Kingdom and then leave? Because my main motivation for Animal Kingdom is I want to see the park at night, but the park's not going to be open late enough for it to get dark to see.
Yeah, you have to see what the hours are going to be. Do they extend them or not? But you could always hop back there. From Magic Kingdom or something like that.
Maybe, but with Magic Kingdom, I want to see Enchantment because I haven't seen it yet, right? So I need to have a night at Epcot and a night at Magic Kingdom for sure because I haven't seen those shows yet. And then whatchamacallit show at Hollywood Studios may potentially be back by midsummer.
Sure.
I mean, it's a long shot, but that might happen, right? So what am I supposed to do? I can't. Where do I hop to and from? I'm very confused. I don't know, but I like the option of being able to do that, right?
Yeah.
And they haven't had any of they have not released the extended hours yet, all the way through July. So it's kind of like I think Magic Kingdom's hours are on the calendar right now are late now, and then they're closed earlier. But they
usually extend them like a month out or something.
That's what I was going to say. Like how long is it? Like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something?
It's been like various, but yeah, 3 to 4 weeks is kind of when the big one comes. But then even 2 weeks, they might have another adjustment or something like that.
So though, for those of you out there planning, check your calendar. Check the calendar on the Disney website. It'll update everything, and because those hours sometimes get sneaky and they open up a little late. And then another thing I want to pay attention to, and I think some websites cover this, is the because we're staying on property, we get the extra morning or the whatever they call it now.
Early entry.
Thank you, which is a half hour, but they've been letting people in some parks in even earlier, whether it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So I have to strategize now, like how early can I get out and over there, especially if I want to try to do rope drop rise or something, and then if I got Slinky or something else like that. Like
I was going to say, especially for like Cosmic Rewind, be watching that week before. Okay, what time are people getting to the Skyliner station to get over to Epcot and stuff like that? And it's good. This is going to be like at least my kids aren't going to be there hearing me curse in the room when I don't get these things, and I'm going to be like, I'm going to recruit you and maybe another family member to try to I need more presses on these buttons. I'm going to have my work phone, my personal phone. I'm going to have it on my wife's phone where I'll be like, all right, we got to hit these buttons. Let's do this. So that should be interesting. So speaking of Genie Plus, right? So I'm going to be all in on it. I'm going to be paying for it. I'm going to be trying to be stacking. And the problem is Disney World has added some very small verbiage for expect only 2 to 3 why don't you read it? You put it on there. So they added some language to the Genie Plus website where it says, and this I'm quoting this, on average, guests can enter 2 to 3 attractions or experiences per day using the Lightning Lane entrance if the first selection is made early in the day. So that's a lot of caveats there that Disney's putting out there saying you're giving us $15, and unless you're like going at it early, even if you do that, don't expect more than 2 to 3. Which, by the way, 2 to 3, you got 3 free ones before.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're paying for this stuff. Well, here's the thing for those of you out there. This is basically somebody had linked a good Touring's Plan blog that like really stepped you through it perfectly. They did a good explanation, but essentially it comes down to this: wake up at 6:55 in the morning, book your first Lightning Lane and your individual Lightning Lane for the day. Your goal is to book as late as possible, right? And then you can then book your second Lightning Lane 2 hours after park opens. So you book anywhere in the morning, and then as soon as if the park opens at 9, as soon as at 11 o'clock, you book your next one, again, as late as possible. So then at 11, 1, 3, 5, 7, and then 9, if for example, if Magic Kingdom is still open and they haven't sold out for the day. Yeah. That way, the reasoning why you want to stack them is because you should get rope drop and get everything in it early in the morning. The crowds are massive during the middle part of the day, so that's a good time for you to take a break, go get some lunch, kind of not wait on lines. And then once like 3 o'clock hits around, if that's your first individual Lightning, you have a solid 3 to 5 attractions if you've been getting lucky at Magic Kingdom or Hollywood Studios of just fast attractions you can get on and go to it, and then you hopefully might be get 5 to 7 of them if you're super duper lucky. Well, is it 7? Probably doesn't.
7. If you're doing the stacking one, I think 7 might be tough. I think, and it depends on the crowd levels. If it's not too crowded, especially in Magic Kingdom, instead of stacking, you can do the flow method where you look for one maybe an hour into park opening, rope drop, get a couple done, do your first one, check in, and then book your next one there, because then at least you're not competing with everybody at 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock or whatever. And you can kind of just keep rolling them, especially if you're looking for maybe not the headliners. I think that works really well at Magic Kingdom if it's not, super high crowds. The stacking one, I think, is a really smart one at Hollywood Studios, where especially if you're likely trying to get Slinky Dog, and you very well might not get that until 5 p.m. So then you're kind of forced to do the stacking method.
So in the flow method that you're talking about, so basically you can then get a new lightning lane as soon as you've used
as soon as you scan in for your first one then.
So correct me if I'm wrong, the strategy would then be wake up early. Let's say park opens at 9, you're there at 8:30, you do a bunch of attractions. You want to get your first lightning lane at maybe like 10:30, which is usually when you wanted to get your first fast pass back in the day. And then once you've used it, you book the second one. And usually you want to probably do it in the 10 o'clock hour, right before everybody starts hitting them
you definitely want to get in before 11 o'clock. So even if you get one for say 9:30, because you have an hour to use it. So you'd have some, use it towards the close of the window, and then try to get your next one and then do that one right away and do the next one.
So the only way that can get you in trouble, right, and set you off is if once you get your second one at 10:55, let's say, you might get stuck with one like late in the day. And now your every 2 hours is kind of skewed.
But at least you're then still you ahead of everybody else's next one.
You are, but like you might get caught.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You might get caught.
That's why I said I think it works better at Magic Kingdom, especially if you're kind of like, we're just going to see what we can get. There's a number of rides we want to do.
We have a good amount of rides for it.
Whereas at Hollywood Studios, if you're like, I really want Slinky Dog or whatever, or Minnie's Runaway, like you just book it and whenever it is, and then do
what would you try to do on like a Magic Kingdom day right now if it was just you and like one other person, your wife, whatever?
Yeah, so I think I'd probably
your wife. I'm sorry.
I think Jungle Cruise is a high priority because that line just really builds, and if you want to do Jungle Cruise, it's worth it to get the Genie Plus for that, and then I'd probably rope drop either Seven Dwarfs or Space Mountain, because those early entry is only Tomorrowland and Fantasyland. And then I'd probably, depending on when I got Jungle Cruise, I'd go over and start doing the Adventureland and Frontierland stuff.
So are you doing the flow method or the stacking method?
So Magic Kingdom, unless I knew it was like a really peak crowd day, I would probably do the flow or the rolling method.
I gotta think about that. I want to try both to see what happens, and then I can come on here and complain and blame you for a bad day, or praise you for amazing advice.
I ruined your entire trip.
Yes, I'll be that person. My trip is ruined. I haven't gotten on the ride that I've been on a million times already. I hate it. So then at Disneyland, they had something that it was just.
Yeah, this came up, and I don't know if this is happening all the time or just because it was Easter weekend, but they actually had a pop-up come on the app telling people that make sure you check the availability before you purchase Genie Plus. Now, I think this was later into the day, and like I said, it was a crowded weekend, but like, how flawed is a system that you have to like warn people, like, maybe you don't want to buy this?
Maybe we stink at creating these things, and we're thinking about, like, if one of our DVC recommends is the Jim Hill and Len Testa's Disney Dish. We're going to talk about it a little bit later, but one of the things that they always talk about is the surveys that they do, and there's surveys about Genie Plus that are just like bonkers about how bad. I mean, they know how bad things are.
Yeah, it was really interesting that you bring that up, that the questions, like everything they asked about is everything I hear people complaining about. So it's like they're hearing it. They know what the issues are. It's just, what do they do about it?
Well, I mean, they like to be slow and gather information. And I don't want to take too much credit. I don't want to take any credit away from Jim and Len's show. So if you want to hear that discussion, just go listen to, I think it was last week's show that was published last week. We're saying this we're recording on Monday. May 2nd. So it'll be last week's show from today. If you want to scroll back and get to it. All right. So did you have any updates on your trip? Did anything kind of change that you want to throw in there?
No, nothing really major. So we're still scheduled for mid-December. We're looking to do renting DVC points for the first time.
So that's going to be a journey you have to do.
Yeah, that's talk about like learning something new and feeling kind of like thrown in the deep end and not really know how things work, especially this far out because it's more than 7 months, so it's only people at the home resorts available. So there's not as many people, so they got to find somebody that, there's availability for the days I'm looking, but they got to find a member who's willing to sell the points. And so I'm still waiting to hear back, but hopefully it'll go through, and we are going to do a 1-bedroom at Kidani Village at Animal Kingdom Lodge. That's what we're hoping to do.
I got to say, I was just looking rack rates for Animal Kingdom Lodge. It was only like $330 a night. And I paid more I would have paid more at Caribbean Beach Resort in February than that. So
so obviously this is more than that because it's a one like full cutoff 1-bedroom and stuff like that versus a studio. But like, it's like much more reasonable. And for having the five of us, my wife and I will have a whole separate room and the kids will be in another room. There's 2 bathrooms.
That's perfect.
And we're kind of doing this as a trip for my son's birthday. He's like kind of been asking about, can we go to Disney on my birthday? Because we've done it for his older sister.
It's only fair, right? It's only fair.
Yeah, and so he's asked about that. So we did pick a Savannah view. So hopefully he'll get
that's
to see
going to be awesome.
Lots of animals and stuff.
Definitely
like that.
pictures going to be on Twitter on that trip, I think.
Absolutely. So we're waiting for more things to fall into place to that before we get heavy with the planning. But that's
if you're flexible, and I have no idea the reliability of this guy on Twitter, but it's like DVC guy or whatever. He runs like a rental agency or whatever. He tweets out every once in a while like deals, like sales or something. Yeah, and it was like a 5-night stay at a specific date, like within like a month or two, and it was like contemporary. It was like only $2,500 for like a 5-night stay or something silly like that. I'm like, that's not a bad idea for like a studio or something like that. So basically what happens is somebody cancels their vacation or they have this thing, they'll try to sell them cheap just to either break even or kind of get rid of the reservation, I guess. So they have inventory. So it's kind of neat. So like you could probably, if you're flexible, you could probably find some good deals if you search out there and learn to trust whoever's trying to sell them.
I know, I'm not sure if I'm ready to do that for my first time voyaging, so I'm using one of the main websites. But
that's the tricky part, right? You have to go on reputation. So for anybody out there thinking about renting points, definitely do your research and try to find as many personal stories for people that you trust that have used it before. Hop on Discord. There's a lot of really good DVC people in the community that will help you out. And they'll tell you, who's reliable, what you should do, and because I know like half of the things that they're talking about. So I'd be super pumped to hear about your story once you're all done and come back, what the process was. Because that's an option a lot of people don't realize is out there for them to kind of stay at like a deluxe resort.
And don't get me wrong, it's still not cheap, but for the size accommodation we're getting versus – like we stayed at Caribbean Beach and it worked out and we could afford it and that sort of thing. But the kids are getting bigger. That's a lot of people for, in 1 room, 1 bathroom, that sort of thing. So we'll see how it is. And I'm sure I'll come back and be like, it's amazing. We bought into DVC.
You get you suckered into that tour. You're like, all right, here's my credit card. Let's go. Here's the down payment. From my previous, I haven't looked into the prices in years, but from what I remember, it's basically a solid halfway between a moderate and deluxe rack rates to rent DVC points. If you catch the right resort at the right time, et cetera, there's differences in seasons.
That's what it seemed like for if you were getting like a studio. So comparing like a regular hotel room, it was about that.
Yep, that's all I'm comparing it to. Because it was
so I'd say our 1-bedrooms probably would cost us similar to what it would cost us to pay for a studio at a deluxe.
Right. Yes, because there's no rooms, 1-bedroom rooms to kind of really compare apples to apples on that one. All right. So the next thing we want to talk about is Tron was testing their vehicles. I think we've made mention of this before. I think you did the math, or maybe I did the math. I can't remember who it was. like when they started testing the vehicles for Guardians,
Cosmic Rewind,
right? It was about maybe like a 4 or 5 month like period of getting it ready, and I don't know if they carry some every ride, whatever. But if they're testing it now, this was a couple weeks ago. that might put them on target for like sneaky end of summer kind of.
Yeah, I had done I'm sure other
stuff.
people have done, but I had done the math, the difference between the opening date for Cosmic Rewind from when they started to when they started Tron, and it put it to about mid-September.
That sounds about right.
So even if you give them a little bit more cushion, you're talking October, November should be doable, no problem, right?
I think
at least that's my hope. At least the person with the planning the December trip is hoping for that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think they want to do a 50 for get Tron open for the 51st anniversary, right? That's why they're going to have like just X out the 0, but a 1 on top of it and keep the party rolling.
It opens September 30th. No, we got it done in the 50th year.
Well, I mean, like my wife told the kids that, mom and dad are going to Disney without you, so to speak, but I think a lot more gentler than without you, like speech. But one of the things that we're thinking about, like we were still going to be planning a trip for the fall at some point.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like crossing my fingers. I'm like, I hope Tron. We know that Tron's coming in like the fall, quote unquote, and I'm going to plan a trip around it just so we'll be able to see it, and then not have to wait another 8 months or whatever until the next trip or a year or two for the next trip.
But it's exciting if it comes in the fall, or even, I'm thinking about it for my December trip, and then you're obviously seeing work done on the train tunnel, so the train should be back for the first time in 5 years or whatever.
That train should be back a lot sooner than that ride. I would have to imagine that. Yeah,
I would think that being open by September should be certainly doable, if not earlier.
How many tweets and vlogs will there be of the sound the first time that whistle goes off? That's just going to be all day. It's just going to be whistle, whistle, whistle.
And do they bring back like that welcome show where the characters arrive on the train and stuff like that?
No, that costs too much money. They will never do that.
They'll never do that.
This is not Disneyland Paris where they do things differently. Over there on the other
or Disneyland where they have the 50th anniversary parade going.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, like speaking of Tomorrowland, you had a tweet out there that I didn't see, or it was in my feed, and I missed it because I follow too many people on Twitter. Disneyland Tokyo had some concept art for a redo of Space Mountain. Can you visualize that not visual? Like, can you put words to picture?
Yeah, so they talked about it. They're going to completely redo it. I think my understanding is almost like take the whole thing down and rebuild it.
The track too, it's not just the shell of the building.
I think everything.
Oh,
I think it's going to be totally redone. And I think my understanding is it's going to be more like the Paris version so it's more thrilling and have like loops and stuff like that. And if you look at the outside of the building, it certainly evokes Tron to me.
Well, it matches, right?
It has like the swoops and like kind of that like Tron blue coloring in it and stuff like that. So I was like, that looks like it would fit in really well right next to Tron in the Magic Kingdom. Now I know it's completely different companies. It's run by the Oriental Land Company over there. They just license it out. So things that get done over there, it has really little to no connection to be done over here. But it got me excited about it. And my understanding, I converted to dollars, it was going to be something like $460 million they're spending to rebuild it. So,
well, I mean, I could see Disney World just like redoing the shell of the building, right? Mm-hmm. Like the attraction will still work, but they just basically, it'll be just, sheets of plastic around it, like
just to kind of make it match a little
big
more.
Rickshaw, or not a rickshaw, scaffolding. Gosh, I can't think of words tonight. Scaffolding around it, type of thing, and because you got to think, my views about Tomorrowland are well known on this podcast, going back years here. So I think it would be really cool because the Tron building looks gorgeous, right? It's gonna. We've talked about this, and they started taking down like these little spires or whatever on the the gift shop or the exit for Space Mountain, because that's where the entrance, I guess, is going to kind of.
Or there's a pathway for it. I don't know if that's the exit or just part of the pathway.
People are going to be walking past it, to or from Tron.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a focal point, right? So I think that would look excellent, because as iconic as Space Mountain is, it doesn't need to be, right? Yeah. I mean, it is,
and you can still keep that like TP, for lack of a better word, like looking shape to, like you could still make it look like Space Mountain, just Tronified, right? Like,
well, I mean, like regardless of Tronified, but make it like there's hardly in any science fiction art, things aren't like rigid with straight lines and angles or whatever. There's more swoops and stuff to it. To me, with Tron's going to look very nice because it's going to be very curves and lighting. It's going to look it's going to look Space Mountain's going to look out of place next to it, essentially. Not that I don't know if they really care about that anymore, but things being out of place, I should say. But I think the theming would look great if they kind of do that.
Redoing that and then redoing the Speedway to fit in as well would be a nice touch as well. Make that whole area kind of fit together.
Well, I would demo all of Speedway, put something else there. I don't know if you just want to Tronify that also with like light cycles or whatever. I mean, like it's not Tron Land, right? So I think
no, but I think you could make it electronic vehicles. And
absolutely.
Like just update how it looks a little. Again,
yeah.
It doesn't have to be like light cycles, but just kind of more the Tron style of future looking stuff versus.
So instead of actually
50s roadsters.
Yeah, well, so here's the next question. So instead of just smelling the fumes of the gas, did they just pipe in the smell of gas later on, just to invoke nostalgia for that part of the park? So
no, they'll sell spirit jerseys that smell like it. Yeah.
Oil rags or something else like that, right? Okay, so that kind of gets me excited for Tron, and at least I can have a little bit of hope of maybe fixing up the rest of that area. I mean, part of the other buzz, literally and figuratively, is with Lightyear coming, that might get some more refurbs along the way and use that space properly. So we'll see. Maybe hopefully let's cross our fingers for Buzz Lightyear. 'Cause what did we talked about this a couple weeks ago? What was the threshold? It was like $800 million, like global whatever, to just get their attention. Be like, okay, people still like Buzz Lightyear, even though it's a 30-year-old property at this point. So here's to hoping. You also had here on the show notes about the D23 2022 preview. What did you want to share about that?
So, and maybe we can get into it as it gets closer. I was just thinking, I just saw an article by Disney Food Blog that had up, why you want to pay attention this September if you're a Disney fan, and it starts talking about what's going to get covered at D23. And I thought it was interesting that they listed out, and I'm trying to get to the list of it. Like, here's what came out of the 2019 D23 Expo. So not saying we're going to get the same, but like this level of information, if not more, because they haven't had one in 3 years.
Oh, that show was amazing with like future of the parks.
Yeah.
It was crazy good.
So they talked about a lot of the information about Epcot transformation. So they introduced the Moana ride, updating Spaceship Earth, the Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, the name of the Harmonious show. It talked about the Mary Poppins attraction, the name of Space 220. Like all of that was just one bullet point. Then it talked about the new DVC that was going to be reflections of a Disney Lakeside Lodge. It talked about Avengers Campus over at Phase 2. It talked about Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser. It mentioned the new parade in Disneyland. It announced the new ship for the cruise line and the new private island, and it announced Disney Genie at it. Like, that's a lot of information. Now, obviously, COVID got in the way, and we're not getting all of that. But like,
we got most of it though.
We got a lot of it in some. I mean, they cut back a lot, at Epcot and stuff like that.
Mary Poppins
kind of got scaled back a bit.
The transformation, but we still got Moana stuff. We got Cosmic Rewind. We got Harmonious. We got Reflections is now the addition to the Polynesian, probably. Avengers Campus, Star Cruiser, Parade in Disneyland. It might not be the same one, but the Disney Wish is.
The parade opened there for 2 weeks and then hasn't happened again.
Well, it hasn't come back, but they have new stuff over there, but just not in the same form.
Yeah.
The Wish is launching this September, October, I think, right? I don't know where the island is at this point, but it's later this year. I'm not a cruise line guy. And of course we got Disney Genie, but like it doesn't do anything that they were advertising it for to be.
But just think about like if this September, that level of new things coming, if not more, right? Because we haven't had it. I mean, that'll get people excited, right? Like if that much new stuff is getting announced, I mean, that's like a transformation of a whole park.
But we're not going to get it because not because Disney doesn't want to spend the money on it just now, right? The capital investment of it. They just got all new people at Imagineering, a new head of Imagineering. I don't think they have had time to put together, their new plans and new vision with Chapek on, at the head and trying to get all his people in and all this other stuff. I don't think they've had enough time to kind of formulate a 5 to 10 year plan of the parks, because back then this was a, 2 to 5 year plan for the parks. And here we are 3 years later, we got most of it, right? But with COVID, I don't think they've had time to start, what's next.
That's an interesting point. Yeah. So how much are we getting? And maybe it's more high level early thoughts, let alone more.
I hope so.
More than finalize things, but we should hear more about the update to Splash Mountain, and maybe we'll get some more updates for Animal Kingdom and things like that. So I don't know. I just think that session got people really excited about things, and
yep.
Hopefully the same thing happens, that people get excited again, and that feels like Disney is going to do some new stuff, and it's not just rest on their laurels and don't worry about Epic Universe and stuff like that.
Oh, I'm all about it. I'm all about it. And there is speculation this might be the last one, because Chapek was never one for these kind of events.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if I heard that on like WD Magic or on the Lens show, but I heard it somewhere. It was a while ago. All right, so we haven't done this in quite some time. Oh wait, before we do it, just want to remind everybody, if you enjoy the show, like and subscribe, or leave a 5-star review on Apple. iTunes or thumbs up or whatever people do these days on different platforms. There's a lot of different ones out there. And then Phil, what is our unified social media platform?
Yeah, our unified address on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and the YouTube channel is all at the DBC Pod, and our Discord server.
Yep. So we appreciate any kind of likes and follows, subscriptions that you have on there. That being said, let's go to attractionality this week, and this one was the Swiss Family Treehouse, and this blends in with some recent news that from Disneyland.
Yep.
So, at home in the sky, toward the island abode of the Swiss Family Robinson, built after their shipwreck on a deserted island, cross a bridge to the foot of a large leafy tree and climb handcrafted wooden stairs, explore the living quarters of the famous adventurers, and discover open-air rooms brimming with a bevy of 19th century articles salvaged from the wreck. So, This was an interesting one. I got to bring up the numbers here on my other screen, so this is why I'm looking over to the side, Phil. And people will be thinking, why am I looking away from you? I am not, on purpose. That being said, it says, how much do you like the concept of this attraction, Phil? Where'd you rate this at?
So I actually rated it fairly high. I gave it a 4.
Okay.
Because I think the concept of something like physical that you can walk through and experience that was in a movie about adventure. And how many people, everybody, like when they were a kid, right, wanted to live in a treehouse
Sure.
and stuff like that. And so I think, just the concept of it fits in really well. I mean, obviously it was, more of an old school style attraction. It was there when the park was built. But I think, yeah, like I said, the concept of bringing something from a film that everybody probably fantasized about experiencing and making that a reality is a good one.
I gave this a 3. And the only reason why, it's because it's the Walt Disney World Adventure version of it, and it would be cooler if it was Tarzan at Walt Disney World, right? Because my kids, I'm just speaking from I kind of dig it because it's cool, it's old-fashioned, it's one of the original rides. I appreciate the nostalgia or history behind it, whatever you want to call it. But it's still not fun to go. I mean, it is fun, but it's still not exciting to go through, right? My kids liked it because they get to go high up in a tree, but you could put anything in there and their level of excitement would have been the same. Because the attraction itself is not elevating the experience of the walkthrough. Love the walkthrough idea. Love the concept. I think if it was something different, it would get to a 4 or 5 status for what it is type of thing, I think, with a different IP, or it doesn't even have to be IP. It has to be a better storyline, because they don't know what we tried watching the Swiss Family Robinson movie, and they made it through most of it, but it's soon forgotten, so to speak. It didn't capture them. How well do you think the Swiss Family Treehouse delivers for its target audience?
So I think for the reasons that you just said is why I gave this a 2.
Okay.
Because I feel like it has this concept of adventure and living in a treehouse, and then you get in it, and most people are like, I have no idea what this is about.
Right.
So it's a bit of a letdown versus what it could be. So that's why I gave it a 2.
I gave it a 3 only because I'm assuming that the Swiss Family Treehouse target audience is somebody that's seen the movie, likes the movie, and wants to explore it. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a 3 because it does what it says it's going to do. But you're also going in with low expectations. Okay. So with that in mind, I give it a 3. But I could easily give this a 2 or a 1 if you want to argue from a different point of view, I guess. Question number 3: how much do you personally enjoy the Swiss Family Treehouse?
I also gave this a 2. I think it's fine. I think I like that it exists, but it's something we'll do occasionally. It's not a must do. and I think I'm just getting old. So, like climbing it is not as much fun as it used to be. So that's why I said personally, I gave it a 2.
I gave this a 2 as well, but for kind of different reasons. I don't mind it. I just like they could do so much more with this space. I mean, we talked about this before about what we would do to like revitalize some parts of it, like get rid of the whole thing and put something else in there. But obviously, there's not much you can put in that area anyway. But like if you built out the tree a little bit more, kind of reinforced it like they have them in Pandora, maybe have like snakes dangling from the tree. Maybe it's a Tarzan thing. Maybe it's, well, this is more of our follow-up question about what IP would you stick in there. But like if it's an Encanto thing, you can have, that fits perfectly with the adventure and all this other stuff. There's a lot of cool things you could do with the music and everything else. So, I mean, obviously it's a 2. I mean, ask me any other day, I could probably give this a 1 also because I've been on it once in the last 5 years, I think, even though I've walked past it a million times.
The reason I didn't give it a 1 is I do like the views from it. Mm-hmm. So like when you get up top and you can kind of see out on everything, I really do enjoy that. So that's why I give it a 2 versus a 1.
Yeah, that's true. It says, how well do you think the Swiss Family Treehouse fits into Adventureland and the Magic Kingdom? I'll just go real quick. I give this a 4 because it fits with the theme. It's, regardless if you enjoy it or not, it fits perfectly for where it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I gave it a 5. I think, like you said, maybe the IP isn't as current, but it certainly was current when it was built. It totally is all about adventure. And, there's all the actual trees there for the Jungle Cruise, so it certainly fits right in there. So sometimes you like walk past it and you don't even notice you passed the entrance to it.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment. What do you think about the Treehouse? Is this something that you would like to see changed? Do you want to keep it the same? Are you one of those firebrands like, no, never change anything? I love this. This is what I did as a kid. And if it was, let us know what cool memories you have of this ride, and we'll certainly share that in the next week's show. Other than that, I kind of spoiled your follow-up question because this was your baby. So what was that, Phil?
So the follow-up question is that it's been reported, or Disney has confirmed, that the treehouse at Disneyland, which had already been updated and themed to be for Tarzan, it's been closed actually since September, but they just confirmed a few weeks ago that it will be changing to a new, quote, theme and backstory. So they haven't said what it'll be, but everyone's saying that's obviously it's not going to be Tarzan. It'll be something different. A lot of people are running with a rumor that it's going to be Encanto. Although if you follow kind of the trace of the rumors, it goes back to like one website who was like, I think it'd be cool if they did this. Now everyone's like, oh, I think it's going to be Encanto. So there's not really any basis behind that other than we know that, Chapek's talked about it being a franchise. And I don't know if people saw recently, Lin-Manuel Miranda tweeted out that he knows Imagineers are working on development of an attraction for Encanto. Mm-hmm. So we know it's coming. So I think people are just kind of putting 2 and 2 together, and maybe they're not coming up with 4, but that they think it could be Encanto, which it could fit, because the kid's room had a big tree in it. Sure. So you could make that Antonio's room.
Shove it into Animal Kingdom in the Tree of Life, right?
Yeah.
Shove it. Well, I mean, that actually work in Animal Kingdom because it's a lot of animals, right? It's, the talking and loving animals is about preservation and stuff, kind of. If it's not Encanto, what do you think it might be?
I don't know. I couldn't really necessarily think of anything else because obviously Tarzan fits well, but Tarzan's also not super current. I'm just not sure what else fits.
Do you think it would be like a generic thing, maybe? Maybe like a park-only IP story to it? Yeah,
maybe something related to the SEA, the Explorers and Adventurers or something like that.
Because I'm thinking like Encanto would be a cool idea, right? But that attraction is I mean, I've never been on the one on Disneyland. I'm assuming it's similar to the one at Disney World.
It's similar. It has some effects, like kind of what you're talking about, where like not real advanced, but it has like a little more effects that happen to it. But otherwise, it's pretty similar.
But my point being, if this is going to be Encanto is obviously a super popular property, and people are going to be going out of their minds to see this thing. Do they really want to shove the only Encanto IP in a ride where you have to walk up and walk down and then tell people that are, not able-bodied that they can't see it, right? Because it's all you can't somebody that needs either it's not wheelchair accessible going up there. If you have like, let's say you need a cane or your knees are not so good, you're not getting up there, right? So I think it'd be awkward if they created.
And I also just don't know how many people it can really handle. Like, if it gets popular because everyone wants to see the Encanto thing, like, are you gonna have lines out the park, like people waiting to climb up the tree? Like,
and especially in if they were to do this in Walt Disney World, Magic Kingdom, there's not enough infrastructure near there to have that much of a line to get in there. Because it's right at the entrance to Adventureland, so it's going to be out into the hub. Essentially, people waiting to walk up and walk down. I think if they had other Encanto stuff in the park, and this was just kind of a side thing, that might work. But if this opens, this is the only Encanto thing. I think
that's a good point.
They're going to be asking for trouble, customer complaints, like I can't walk up there. How come I mean, it's going to be that whole type of thing. So I think they'll. I don't think it will be Encanto. I think they're just going to do something fun with it. And that'd be
really cool if it was like now I'm excited for an SEA thing that you had like all like backstory elements and
that'd be cool.
Little, like hidden, like you pull this thing and something happens and stuff like that. I think that'd be neat.
Adventureland is my favorite land in the park. The more they do with the explorers and stuff like that, I think it's better off. Right. You put in the positivity story of the week. I missed this one when it was posted, so why don't you share what Stitch in Minnesota was telling us about in Discord.
Yep. So she said, you asked for a positivity Disney story. I have an Animal Kingdom for you. My daughter started getting stamps in her Wilderness Explorer booklet on her first trip in 2016. On each return trip, she brought back the same booklet and would continue to obtain more stamps. And I believe it was 2019, she had one stamp to go that was located on the Maharaja Trail. We approached the start of the trail and learned it was closed due to the thunderstorm. We chatted with a cast member and mentioned she had one stamp to go and it had taken a number of trips to work through. A Wilderness Explorer cast member was listening and came over and gave her a lesson from the trail. He then took her book, walked her back to the trail to obtain the stamp for her, and he presented her with a certificate to select a free t-shirt of her choice in the shops. Then on Discovery Island, on the way out of the park where you pick up the booklets, they made a really big deal of making my daughter a junior explorer.
Oh, that's awesome. That's why I always want to go. That's why I feel guilty about not bringing my kids to Walt Disney World, so they don't get like these moments of magic. That's the only thing I'm going to be thinking about on my trip is like, I don't want cast members to shower my wife and I with magic unless we're telling it we're celebrating our anniversary this year and upgrading our room. Not that we need it or anything else like that, but like. I don't need cast members like showering me with attention, but like I miss like the opportunity for my kids to have cool experiences.
Exactly.
So that's why we have to go again if we can throw some money at another vacation later this year if we can swing it. So I love stories like that. That's just. That's why we keep.
And I mean, obviously, they gave her the certificate, so they gave out a free T-shirt. But even the rest of it, like, would have made her day, and it cost Disney zero.
Nothing,
right?
Just somebody listening and making an effort to make somebody's day better, which is always an awesome thing. So I haven't listened to this week's DBC recommends yet. It's on my podcast list for tomorrow because I got a drive ahead of me. So what did you listen to this week's episode?
I did.
Is this the one you're referencing? The one that
Yes.
that was released today? Okay, so
so this is the one that just came out. So the Disney Dish with Jim Hill. The last 3 weeks they've been covering the history of the Reedy Creek Improvement District. Obviously, it's a relevant topic based on what's going down in Florida with the bill being passed to dissolve it next year and that sort of thing. So the last 2 weeks, we're really going through the history of how it was formed. And I think a lot of people know the basics, but when you hear Jim Hill cover it for 2 weeks, there's a lot of details and stuff like that. So this week kind of finishes that up. And then Len Testa gives his thoughts because he talked to 5 different lawyers as well as local representatives and stuff like that and got all their opinions on like, well, what's actually going to happen? Is this really going to get dissolved or can Disney, fight this and that sort of thing? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to like spoil it for you, but I think they did a really good job getting good information and basically saying how good Disney's lawyer team are and that they had been thinking about challenges potentially coming for the last 60 years, literally. So they said this thing's like ironclad. And he went through like 20 examples of how Disney could fight it. So it's not like how they fight it. It's like, which one do they pick to fight it with? So, I mean, the examples they were saying was that it's like Disney's the Harlem Globetrotters and the Florida legislation is the Washington Generals.
That's quite the vision. I mean, like for me, not to get into politics, and this is the last thing I want to do on this podcast, but I'll just keep it at this. This is just like political theater, basically. The elections are coming up, so they want to rile the base.
They definitely mentioned that there's a reason why it doesn't go into effect until next June of 2023, because they know they can make the statement, then the elections happen in November, and then maybe they settle on something, maybe they forget about it or whatever, but like, you know, they kind of get out of it by bringing it up and saying we're going after Disney and that sort of thing. So we'll see. So I just think they did a really good job of laying things out and actually talking to lawyers and stuff like that. So if you're,
it's very informative. I can't wait to listen to it tomorrow.
So if you're kind of interested in kind of what's going on, and if you want to just learn more about the Reedy Creek Improvement District and, you know, a lot of really fascinating stories, just how it got done, give it a listen.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know more than the surface level or the RDIC, it's like RCID. Did I say it backwards? Yeah. Anyway, Jim's telling of the history is super awesome, and they do an excellent job. So if you haven't listened to it in the last couple of weeks, go back to, I guess, last three episodes. Yeah. Do a fantastic job, kind of giving you a nice little history lesson with that. And the only other thing I saw, Scott Gustin tonight tweeted out, speaking of politics, somebody from Texas, a politician from Texas, I don't know if it's a state representative or, you know, for the House of Representatives in Washington, they wanted to get rid of the no-fly zone above Disney World for whatever reason. He didn't give a reason. I just saw like Scott going, oh, this is somebody from Texas, really has nothing to do with their time, that they want to get rid of that, the no-fly zone from the Magic Kingdom. I don't understand what people are doing. It's like, it's Mickey Mouse. Like, leave everybody alone. Come on.
Yeah.
That being said, I think we're done for the day, Phil. We finally got through a lot of our backlog of things that we needed to get to. We're now only 2 attractionalities that we haven't covered yet. So we got good material for the next 2 weeks.
I think so.
Why don't you tease them? Which ones do we have? I got to scroll over here. I missed them. We've got next week. We'll probably be covering. Oh goodness, Toy Story Mania, I think, is up next week.
Yes,
I think that's
the next attraction,
which is interesting. It's going to lead to some interesting conversation. I think there was a lot of back and forth about this one. A lot of really good but strong opinions of this ride, and which surprised me because I don't expect this ride to give out strong opinion. Like it's either a cool ride or it's a ride that you kind of forget, but like strong opinions, like in either way, kind of surprised me about it because it's not a mainliner, but it's also not like the Treehouse where it's on the bottom.
Well, I think it's an interesting one because when it first opened, it was like the big thing to do, and it's obviously evolved over time. So I think people do have some attachments and probably some good stories related to riding.
Probably. I'm probably skipping all of that and just whatever it is. All right. Anyway, thank you everybody for listening. We're just about to hit the 1 hour mark, so we appreciate everything. Remember to like and subscribe. It helps us out on the algorithms, and we'll see you next time. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care, everyone.